Hello, MC Podcast audience. I am Andrew Crabtree, one of the hosts of the show here, and I am joined by my friend Scott Harris.
That's me. Hello.
Today we've got a pretty special episode, and we're not going to take too much time doing this intro because we've got Congressman Mike Bost from the U.S. House of Representatives, and he was on today to talk about ag as an essential infrastructure and also the new stimulus bill.
Yes, it's going to be very interesting.
In full transparency, this intro is recorded after. This is more or less a post-show, pre-show, we'll call it.
Yeah.
So Mike did a great job. We're really excited about that, and hopefully you learned something about your role in our current state of things.
Yeah, and whether you're ag, it's going to be obviously pretty ag-focused, but there's a lot of good information for even non-ag. So listen up. All
right, thanks, guys. And now coming up is now our interview with Mike Bost. All right, podcast audience, thanks so much for being here. We've got on the phone with us a very special guest. We've got Congressman Mike Bost. Mike, thanks for joining the show.
Well, thank you for having me on your podcast. I appreciate that very much.
Real quick, before we jump into the things that everybody wants to hear about, would you mind giving us a real quick bio, where you're from and how long you've been in the political scene?
Sure. I've been actually a member of Congress since 2015. January of 2015 is whenever I took office. Prior to that, I was a state rep for 20 years. I live in Murfreesboro here in Southern Illinois, and born and raised here, lived here all my life, except for the 3 years that I served in the United States Marine Corps. I was an electronics specialist in the Marine Corps. My wife, Tracy, and I have 3 children. We have 11 grandchildren. I came from small business. I was in the trucking business. My family, I was born and raised in the trucking business. I was also a firefighter with the city of Murfreesboro. Got involved in government because I was not happy with things the way they were happening in local government. And through a process and blessed by the people, I was sent, like I said, served in 20 years in the state legislature, and now the last 6 or almost 6 in the U.S. Congress.
Very cool. Well, thanks for your time today. I know. Hopefully we can get you on the podcast again someday under a little better circumstances. But
yeah,
it seems like the issue of the day and everything that we want our audience to know about right now is going to apply to COVID-19 and the stimulus bill that was recently passed just within the last few days here. If we wanted to start with, right now, I know just very recently, within the last couple of days, President Trump kind of extended this stay home, shelter in place, however you want to word it, kind of recommendation through April 30th. Right now, if you are in agriculture, are you, if you're an ag business or a farmer, are you encouraged right now to operate as normal?
Yes, by all means. But you still got to follow those rules of, keep social distancing, don't touch your face, keep your hands clean, wash your hands at least 20 seconds, all of those things. But the reality is that if you're in agriculture, we're depending on you. We've got to have you doing your job, and your job means that this is planting season. Get ready, do what you got to do. Get out there, and because this is going to get over. And when it gets over, we're still going to need that supply of food that you provide.
How important do you think, in your estimation, how important is the agriculture industry going to be to kind of the eventual recovery from all of this and a return to normal and a return to prosperity?
Well, remember this. It is essential. It is actually essential because we know from where we live that understand farmers or ag industry in my district alone is the second or third largest industry that's in the district. But they and what you do and your farming and everything like that is vitally important to the recovery, because without you, when you grow up in the area that we've grown up in, you do understand that rush on the grocery store, that stuff just doesn't automatically show up in the grocery store. Yeah. It's because you guys do what you do.
Right. Yeah, I think that part that probably people don't understand if you're not from ag or within it, Mike, and I know you get this, is that, okay, so it may not sound like a big deal if Master's Choice has to shut down for a month. There's plenty of businesses that have had to, The problem is that right now we're shipping out seed. If we can't ship out seed, it doesn't get in the ground. If it doesn't get in the ground, they don't have a crop. This is something that will go on for a year. I mean,
Right.
the what could happen in this month or 2 months or whatever it ends up being can drastically affect the whole year. Especially where we specialize in dairy is even
Right.
worse.
And that and so many people don't understand that. People that are in agriculture understand that if all of a sudden you wait 3 months and say, oh no, I can't go out and do what I normally do. You just described it. You miss a year.
Yeah.
Because you just missed the plant season.
And if the ag cycle misses a year, the prices at the grocery store and even the availability at the grocery store absolutely goes into chaos.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, let's shift gears a little bit, if you don't mind. Another kind of hot topic that I think our viewership and our listeners are going to be very interested in is the stimulus bill that just passed.
You bet.
First off, before we get into too much of the ag specific stuff, I just would like to know your thoughts on if this is a good bill and if this was an easy yes vote for you.
All right. Let me say this. One, it is. Let's not say a good bill. Let's say an essential bill. Okay.
All right.
Now, it was an easy yes vote, folks. We just spent $2 trillion. That's not an easy yes vote, but it is a necessity and an essential vote, and that is vitally important because without this, you would see small business, whether it's farming or any other small business, fail. Many of our small businesses that are service businesses, remember that my other business in life besides Boss Truck Service is my wife's business, and many of her friends are in the service industry. They are cosmetologists. Well, they couldn't draw unemployment because that's not the way, in all of her time working, she's never been able to draw unemployment. This allows them to do that. It also allows our banks to immediately, and when I say this immediately, they can do it today. If you're a small business and you still need to make payroll, they can give you a payroll loan that, well, I say that it can do payroll, it can do rent, it can do mortgages, it can do electrical or utilities, and it can be that loan is a low interest loan guaranteed by the federal government at 100%. And if you're keeping your payroll going at the level that it was before, it allows for 8 weeks of that loan to be forgiven entirely if you keep those employees on. So this is vitally important. And not only that, then also for the medical side to continue to deal with this. Like I said, $2 trillion was not an easy vote, but an essential vote.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a little kid who grew up in Vian, Illinois, I have a hard time comprehending $2 trillion.
It's a big number.
I'm
well,
sure
just so you know, I've been around with state budgets and federal budgets, and even dealing with those budgets, $2 trillion. That was what we were looking at for the infrastructure package, and we were just trying to figure out how we were going to come up with that. But now all of a sudden, we just voted for a bill that has no infrastructure in it.
Yeah.
It has a dealing with this issue at that $2 trillion level, and it's hard to comprehend. I guess I've got an old friend in the state legislature. When I went to the state legislature, when I went from millions to billions, and he said, oh, just move the decimal point. It's not that bad. And I'm like, oh no, it's bad. It's bad.
Maybe a little more difficult than that.
So can you give me any more specifics? Give us any more specifics, like as far as kind of what farmers, agribusinesses can expect out of the bill? You hit on some of it already, but kind of other assistance maybe that kind of comes to mind.
Sure. Let me say a few things here. The CARE Act provides $14 billion for commodity credit corporations. This is an agency that the USDA uses to authorize direct assistance to farmers. So there's direct assistance that are to the point of $14 billion in there for agriculture. Secretary Perdue, so said that a third round of market facilitation payments is probably unlikely, but there is a possibility with China, if it's unable to fill its phase one obligations, that would still be coming too to help farmers.
Okay.
Remember, we're spinning off of a really, really bad year in 2019.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you know that being in rural Southern Illinois with the floods and everything like that, how much it meant and the problems we had, but with these two things, that's a high possibility of assistance to farmers. And let me tell you that the farm industry, people that have worked hard all their life, it is very hard quite often for them to accept help. They would prefer, like we argued that was said last year, let me farm, and I don't want aid. I want to be able to farm. I want to be able to have trade. Well, now all of a sudden we were working towards that end goal of trade, and then all of a sudden we get hit with this. Yeah. So we need to make sure that those things were in that bill as we move forward. And it is not a handout. It is an essential opportunity to keep our agriculture businesses doing what they have to do to get through this tough time.
No, that's well said. Kind of the last question I've got for you here, and then we'll let you go. I know you're a busy guy. You kind of touched on this a little bit already, but just kind of to kind of close up here, is this relief something that we can expect quickly and immediately? Yeah. And where can a guy go to get some of these funds and access to those?
So here's the thing: there's the three different parts of it that are out there that will be quickly handled. Now, let me say that if you are self-employed and you do qualify for, and this is above and beyond ag, okay? If you are self-employed and or in a service type industry, you can actually apply for unemployment insurance, which is not the norm, but you can do that right away. However, it's kind of like overloaded, so you need to spend a lot of time on the internet getting in there. But as far as ag and farm businesses are concerned, they are small businesses. So if they have a payroll, different effective, if it's dairy or whatever, you can get these interest loans immediately from the bank, the SBA, your local lender. Okay, that's the advantage of this, and it's available now. And your banks will know and understand about this because they're reaching out to them and have done it early this week. So this is the fastest I've seen government work. I just got off a conference call with the Republican members of Congress less than a half hour ago, and they the finance committees, the banks are knowing, they're being trained in this, and the vitally important part is that it comes right down to that banker that you know and work with all the time, and so that's who you go to get that information. As far as the others out there that we talked about, the $14 billion for the community credit corporations, those are being worked through, and the rules are being written on that, and we should be able to see that in a week, 2 weeks. Minimum.
Very good.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
There's also stuff really quick. There's also stuff in this bill that is going to, I believe, have a long-term effect, not just these short-term things for the things that will come. You may not be seeing a problem right now, but you're going to see a problem later. And the bill seems to do a nice job of addressing that as well. So,
yeah, this was, like I said, this is about the fastest I've seen federal government work, especially. Now, the question is, are there going to be hiccups along the way? I hope not, but it is government. But we want to make sure that we understand what it's specifically there for. It's to make sure that you can keep doing your job in ag industry as well as every other industry to make sure. Remember, this economy was booming before this started, and it'll do it again. And the best way I just heard it described was the guy he and I came in together in Congress, Andy Barr from over at Louisville. Because he's around the horses all the time. He is on the finance committee. And what he said was, folks, everybody keeps saying we're going into a recession. We're going into a recession. No, a recession is caused by a problem in the market, not caused by something that government made a decision to shut things down. Yeah. So what we've got is we've got all these horses lined up at the starting gate. They were running before. They're sitting there. They're ready to run again. And all we got to do is get through this. And we release them. This economy is going to boom.
Yeah, I like that. Well, Mike, thanks so much for being on. I really appreciate your time. And I just, on a personal note, I want to thank you and the other members of Congress. And I think the federal government right now is doing a tremendous job. And the way that you guys have kind of addressed some of these problems, I mean, this is unprecedented. You don't have a playbook. So thank you for working hard for us.
Well, keep us in your prayers.
Will do. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good one.
Thanks.
So, Scott, Mike Bost, just on the show, what'd you think?
I thought first of all, he did a great job. Got to meet Mike personally a couple different times, and always an extremely friendly guy, very outgoing, but cares so much about Southern Illinois. Mike got famous for a very famous video a few years ago when he was still in state Congress, kind of going on a rant about the kind of mistreatment of Southern Illinois, he felt like. And it's nice to know that he's got back. But he cares. And But his love for people and care goes far beyond just the people of Southern Illinois.
So we talked about the shelter in place. Just to kind of recap here, we did an episode that went out last week. Encouraging ag businesses. The CISA says that you are an essential part of our infrastructure, and not only are you able to stay open, but you are expected to stay open.
Right.
And kind of Mike, I think, kind of reemphasized that and did a good job of saying how critical ag is to our current needs and future needs.
Yeah, and I think that what he hit on too is that doesn't mean you still don't follow the rules.
Yeah.
Use some common sense. I mean, I applaud Master's Choice, our ownership, that one of those being you, for we've allowed people that can to work from home, and if they need to or feel more comfortable in that situation to do that, and it's
gone remarkably well.
It's gone remarkably well, probably better than I would have imagined. And
everybody here, and I think that our office, I think, is a microcosm of kind of the level of understanding in the country right now, but everybody's really going way out of their way to make sure other people their needs are met and that they're taken care of and that they're fitting in and communicating. So I think that even just nationwide, you're seeing right now an unprecedented and maybe even unexpected level of kindness to each other right now. Absolutely.
And, the thing I said just the other night to talking to somebody, I think it was actually my pastor, and I said, the worry of all this at the end of it comes is, will we go back to normal?
Yeah.
I mean, using the air quotes, normal, right? I hope not. I hope this teaches us and we learn from this. And while I never want it to happen again, I do want. If we don't learn from it, it's going to happen again for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think about my family and the family time because right now, we've talked a million times about ag being an essential business. So Master's Choice is open, and I have been coming into the office. I haven't been working from home at this point, but I go here and I go home, and that's it.
Yep.
And so I've spent so much more time at home, so much less busy, so much more quality time with my kids. And I was talking to my wife last night, and as bad as coronavirus is, and as scary as it is, and as much as our heart goes out to people that are sick, this has been a tremendous thing for our family. We're so much closer and spending so much quality time together than we ever were before.
Yep.
We talked about the stimulus bill. That was a really interesting part of the interview. The news media can only give you so much information on that at a go. And I think that with our audience being made up of mostly people in the ag community, we got some very specific targeted information there.
Yeah. And non-ag even, as far as self-employed abilities for people.
That was interesting.
Yeah. I didn't know that was a thing. And there's just so many, when you have a crisis situation like this, most people can see the obvious challenges, but it's the little ones you don't think about that can have dramatic effect.
I had no idea about the self-employed stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a big deal. And so, if there's one of those things, there's probably 100 things in that bill that.
It really does speak to how impressive it was that they were able to come through with such a comprehensive bill in such a short amount of time.
Yeah. Then, of course, they're going to set themselves up for why does everything else take so long?
Well, this was a good episode. I thought it was fun.
It was good.
And hopefully there's people out there that are actually going to learn some stuff and go to those local banks. Like Mike said, these are your local lenders that have access to this. So hopefully people take advantage.
There's one thing of this aspect that I want to particularly get in the minds of farmers out there that are listening to this is, I think many of us would agree, and we've said it on this podcast, that there's been a disconnect that has occurred from the farmer to the consumer, and we need to work on building that bridge. This is a thing that could help do that from the aspect of people are seeing why farm is essential. Yeah. But farmers are also seeing that what they do is so important. It's easy to lose sight of that when
you're proud of it.
When you're dealing with the grind every day, and And so just good thing that could bring some things together.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening. Be proud of what you're doing out there, ag community. This is unprecedented times, and the role that you play is critical. You've known that for a long time. I've known that for a long time. But kind of like Scott said, the country's watching you right now. So let's have a good planting season coming up, and everybody stay safe. Thanks for tuning in.